All right, this demo is going to go through matte effect along with, that's the main one, new one, and then we'll do some other editing as usual. So let's start with the matte effect. So this is a cool effect that we're going to use under the curves. So if you go to the half black, half white circle, go to curves. So normally when we've used curves, we've used it where we've created this slight S curve. So we're going to do the same thing. So I'll repeat that. Oops, let's go back to curves again. Okay, so in the top right corner, those are our highlights, our brightest part. So where those lines cross, we're going to click and drag up a little ways to brighten the highlights. Too bright overall, so we're going to go to the left corner here, down here, and bring that down. All right, so now we've got this nice contrast coming out. Matte effect is just going to take the darkest parts of the picture and just lighten them up a little bit. So it creates this really, this softer feel to the photo, and it also looks really interesting. So I'm going to drag that down just a little more. Okay, so how we do this is we're going to drag, oh, not that much. We're going to drag that side up a little bit. And then we're going to add another point and kind of bring it back down. Okay, so how this looks, I'm going to take the visibility off. So you can see more contrast, and then it creates kind of almost this even sheen over part of a dark area. So it's kind of, it still has darks in it, just lightening them up in some parts. So we've got our S curve, and then it kind of comes across over here. Cool effect. Okay, something else that we can do in curves is what's called RGB color or RGB curves. So right now we can see we're in the black and white, so or the value range. So we're changing it for the value. Under channel, it has RGB. So when we click the down arrow and click on red, here I've already made a little bit of an adjustment. But what you can do is this is the red channel. So this is similar to color balance, but you're just controlling it in a different way. This picture is pretty red overall. So if we go once again to those highlighted areas, we could pull the reds down. I bring it way down. Like that's a that's a cool effect. Not what we're going for right now. Maybe another time. But kind of what's happening is cyan is the opposite of red. So when we pull that down, we can see cyan starting to come out. So we want to pull that down just a little ways to kind of soften that red a little bit. And then we don't want to overdo that in the shadow area. We can bring it down a little bit. It kind of cools down the shadows, which is nice as well. If we go to green here, same thing. You could raise it up and bring out the greens. That doesn't really work for this. Or bring it down and decrease the greens and bring out the magenta. So we'll do a slight down of the green to bring out just a little bit more magenta. And then the last one is blue. Opposite of that is yellow. So if we bring the blues down, you can see it's going to bring out some of the yellows in the highlights, which is really nice. So bringing it below that line. And then if we go down here, that's too much blue. That's too yellow. So we want to just have a really subtle effect with that. Okay. So we can see it's kind of adjusted the color a little bit as well as some of those darks and lights. So that's RGB curves. All right. Now, before we do our other edits with this, we're going to crop it just a little bit. Head is pretty close to rule of thirds, but not quite. So we're going to come this top right corner, click and drag to the bottom left corner. So we're just bringing that in a little ways. Not too much. We want to keep it as a rectangle still. That looks pretty good. So enter. So a small little crop there. And then last thing we're going to do is we can come in like we saw in our last video and do a spot heal. So Control J to duplicate that background layer. I would rename this, so spot heal or patch you can choose. You can zoom in. This is just really subtle. So if we come to the spot heal tool, super easy. Just remember to check the edge of your brush, that the hardness is down. I would try 40%, and we can come in And let's try this again. Yep, there we go. That did that. And we could just clean up some of these spots. This is photo piece, just thinking about this. There we go. Giving it time. And then when you do this, it just really allows you to focus on your subject and less on like things that would stand out on their face that we wouldn't normally see there. It's also a great way to be able to come and clean up like little things. Like could get rid of this little fiber coming out here. So that's another way that you could use that. Great for lint on shirts or things like that. Okay. Once you've done those things, you are good to go. Save that as a JPEG and a PSD.